I was living my life in the servitude of misunderstandings of people I loved. Giving it all, it was never enough. Because of the fall, I could never get up. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I am no longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I swim, 'cause I found the strength within. I don't need your absent friend, 'cause I got this, yeah. 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 This is.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Got a little special thing I'd like to do tonight. I'll play a little song for you about the nastiest, freakiest little sex puppet I know, Fiona. This one's for you, baby. Happy anniversary.
Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday. She tells him she's in church, but she doesn't go. Still she's on her knees, and Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Fiona says she's out shopping, but she's under me and I'm not stopping. 'Cause Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. I can't believe he's so trusting, while I'm right behind you thrusting. Fiona's got him on the phone, yeah, she's trying not to moan. It's a three-way call and he knows nothing, nothing. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. We'll put on a show. Everyone will.
Welcome in, everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed that little bit of music. Let me see here. I can kind of see the lives now. I'm back for a little break. StreamYard has updated, and I've been able to get StreamYard back. It's so good to see y'all. I see Rainbow Ash, Puggles in the chat. Yes, I miss Wednesday night Bible study. I know, man. Yes, I've definitely been taking a break from live streams lately, just kind of to recalibrate and actually situate what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? I know, right? Weed night, that's crazy. I love it, John Hudson, man. It's so good to see you all. Now, listen, for those of you who are watching, tonight is going to be real laid back. This is very impromptu. I do have a few notes, but the notes are not necessarily my script for the night. They were something that I was working on, and I figured, I said this would be a good moment to change that. Is it Weeds Day? I thought it was Tuesday. Now, like, let me take these off because I don't need these. The music has stopped. When I play the next scene, I'll need these. Oh man, it's so amazing to be able to see the chat on the screen now. That is so cool. Oh man, talking about weed somehow during Bible study, because weed is amazing. Like, I literally just finished a blunt. And like, I love it. Like my man, like me and the biblical God are in competition to figure out who the most high is. I think I got him beat. I think I got him beat. Damn, that might be part of my budget issues right now, is that I keep beating Yahweh and being the most high. Because I promise you, every time you see me, I'm high. You know, the only difference is, like, my high is different than other people's high. Like, other people, y'all remember Afro Man? I was gonna go to church, but then I got high. Ooh, gonna pay my child support, but then I got high. My high's a little different. Like I am the most productive in the world when I'm high. And that might be, and like we'll talk about neurospiciness for just a moment before I jump into tonight's topic. But that might be because, like, and this is my story, and you know, I can't share nobody else's story, but I can share mine. And I did share this in Black Non-Believers Next Door. What I realized, or Black Non-Believer Next Door, what I realized is that I spent several years of my life, and y'all let me know if you can hear me okay. Man, that's what I need to be doing, John. But what I realized, I lived several years of my life in like constant depression because I couldn't like escape my own thoughts. That I had so many negative memories, so many traumatic memories, and so much misinformation that it was really hard to navigate that. Thank you, I appreciate that. It was really hard to navigate that, and so I talk about that in my book, Black Non-Believer Next Door, which is available on Amazon, and it's also available on our website, Window Shop. And if you want to help us out, go to Window Shop instead of Amazon. It's available on Amazon because Amazon has a wider distribution. But I'd much prefer people support Window Shop over Amazon. That's just me. But for years, I couldn't escape my own thoughts. I couldn't navigate my own thoughts. I was always trapped in depression, always trapped in what I thought other people thought about me. And so I share in my book about this moment that took place in 2014, in a moment that was very traumatic and triggering for me. And I was a pastor at that moment. And I decided, you know, like I'm so upset that I'm going to go into this room where my cousins are, and I'm, you know, they're obviously in a smoke session, and I'm going to get in on this smoke session. And I did. And I don't know if y'all have ever seen Boondocks when Grandpa smokes weed for the first time, but it was very much like that for me. Which that wasn't my first time smoking weed. I tried it when I was when I was younger, like 7 or 8 years old. Tried it again when I was 13, and then tried it again a few years before that moment. But I think because of the emotional trauma that night, there was so much of a connection for me that night I wasn't using it because of peer pressure. I wasn't using it to be cool. It had nothing to do with any of that, nothing to do with anything like that. It was a me thing. And because of that, like for the first time since I was a child, and I like, I want to say it like that, for the first time since I was a child, I was actually able to sit comfortably with my own thoughts. So it was amazing for me. So now, if anybody do know how to home grow, considering how Alabama is tripping on some of its laws right now, talk to your boy. Talk to your boy. I realized recently, and I don't know how this is going to land on some of y'all. I don't know. But I realized recently that I think I've been an anarchist my whole life. Um, like even now, if y'all have noticed, for some of you that have gotten close to me, you'll notice that I'm very, very, very resistant to the idea of being somebody else's authority or being somebody else's voice. And anarchy as practice is probably not the best way to describe it. It's just it's the closest thing to what I am. Because what I realized is that since I was a child, I've never believed in the efficacy of following anybody else's rules. I mean, like for me, your rules have to go through a process, and in that process, it has to become my rules. I can't follow it because it's your rules. I have to determine that this rule makes sense and therefore adopt it as my rule before I determine to follow it. And I've been like that since I was a child, which I think it was really hard for me growing up in an African American context, because I could very much remember like going through school and stuff like that, and you know, my teachers saying one thing, and I'm going home telling my parents like, "Hey, that's not exactly how that went down." And you know, my mom or my grandma or my auntie are saying stuff like, "Well, those people wouldn't lie." And I'm like, how the fuck you know that? You don't even know them. How you know they ain't gonna lie? Oh, by the way, if this is your first time catching me live, I cuss. I don't know if y'all know that, but I cuss and I cuss like a motherfucker. Now in my videos Monday through Friday that are pre-recorded, I write the full script out. And so I just read that so you don't have to worry about me cussing, because so many people have issues because people are slow and they can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm going to call it what it is until we do better. I don't believe in magical words, so I ain't got no problem with that. But anyway, damn it, I done got caught on a rabbit trail. But the big point is, shit, I was sharing a story. Yeah, I cuss, I smoke, I drink. Like my green screen is kind of fucking up a little bit. Let me push this. See, now you're seeing the magic. You're seeing the magic. You know, but damn it, what was I saying, y'all? Y'all remind me. Where was I going before I got distracted? I'm gonna take a drink of something that y'all are gonna judge me for, and it's okay. Judge me all you want to, goddamn it. Yes, it's a Four Loko. Yeah, yeah. God damn it. I don't know what you. I've lived a hard life. God damn it. Hard life needs hard drinks. And so you should know tonight is going to be fun. Right-handed Sith. I have not. Man, it's good to see you. Dark Light Delirium. Yes, goddamn right, brother. Man, I was talking eloquently about something. Alabama going crazy. Yes, Alabama is going crazy with the weed and stuff. There we go. Anarchy. And so I would, I realized that I am kind of like, that's right. Damn it. Too much weed. I am very much, I realize I've been an anarchist my whole life, and that did create tension between my family and I. It created tension between, anybody in my life who considered themselves an authority figure. Because as a child, and you can blame this on my neurospicy, I couldn't understand how you could have authority in my life without interrogating and investigating my life. How are you going to have, I'm a little bit of antichrist too, infidel. How are you going to have authority in my life and you don't even know me? That was really hard to reconcile for me as a child. And honestly, it took Christianity to beat that out of me. And that was only temporarily. Christianity was able to successfully beat that out of me until Trayvon Martin, because my last name is Martin, and Mike Brown. And it wasn't so much watching white people's response to what happened to Trayvon and Mike. It was watching what pastors did, black pastors, not even the stuff they said against. And there were some pastors, there were some secular atheist people, black folk, who came out and said some stuff that I vehemently disagreed with. Though as a sociologist, I can kind of understand somewhat of their viewpoints, not all the way, because if I understood it all the way, I'd share it. But I don't. But I was more disappointed in the amount of black pastors who pretended that this was such a big deal only to use it as a marketing ploy and then to go back to Sunday as usual. And for those of you who don't know, I deconverted in 2014. That was on the edge of Mike Brown. And it was because I watched how many pastors were unwilling to protest, unwilling to organize, unwilling to do anything substantial, but were willing to preach sermons about it. Oh my goodness, this is a moment. And that's when I realized so much in the church was based on, unfortunately, was based on marketing. And not real ministry, and that really broke my heart. When Trayvon Martin died, I was still a pastor. Or when he was murdered, rather, I was still a pastor of Kingdom Central in Dothan, Alabama. It was one of the fastest growing churches in the region, and my church was one of the many churches who participated in creating an entire sermon series on what it means to, I think my sermon series was called Get Off My Back or something like that. We had the hoodies, we had the Skittles, and I mean, it was great. There was a lot of positive energy around it. And I was at the same time finishing my degree in sociology around that time, my first degree. And so I was really waiting for my pastor friend, not even just waiting. I was challenging a lot of my pastor friends, like, hey, what are we going to do next? All right, we got these series. People are excited. People are energized. all right, let's do what we need to do to shift the Black community into a place where these are not the situations we have anymore. And I realized that nobody was fucking interested in that. That's not what they were interested in. That's not what they wanted to do. Solutions were not on their mind, and so y'all will notice about me today, unapologetically, like I separate myself from things that are not solutions oriented. I've done that. I'm not interested in that. Like I got kids, my kids have friends. Like I got people that I grew up with who have kids and who will eventually have grandkids, man. Like I have such a nuance about this world that I live in that I'm just like, man, I really don't have the time to waste that other people kind of feel like they have the time to waste. Because it's real work out here. And that's just kind of where I stand. All right. So I got a little bit that I want to talk to y'all about tonight. And I'm gonna do my best to kind of monitor the chat. And this is also testing because if y'all don't know, we got a live planned this Sunday, and I'm bringing one of my best friends in the world. Out of everybody in this community that I've been able to connect with, that it's just been natural every time we've got on, is Kyle Butler. So Kyle Butler is joining me on a Sunday morning. Kyle has never joined me on a Sunday morning. And it's beautiful because I didn't even have to twist his arm, which is actually Sunday afternoon. But Kyle is joining me on a Sunday afternoon. For those of you on the West Coast, this is Sunday morning. And we're bringing Derek Day, which is a new friend. I've introduced some of you to him through Discord. And we're going to actually be having a conversation for my BridgeCity Global folks. BridgeCity Global, are you in the house? Are any BridgeCity Global folks watching out there? BridgeCity grads, are y'all in the building tonight? But we're having a conversation for anybody who's been interested in the work that we're doing as BridgeCity Global. I'm sitting down with, number one of my best friends in this community, and number two, one of my newest friends in this community, who are both former pastors who continue to use their platform to try to spread what they currently believe is the good news. And what we're going to do in this conversation is I'm going to open them up. Hell yeah. I'm going to open them up to letting, to kind of getting a vision, getting a view of the BridgeCity Global vision. And we're going to talk about it as former pastors. Like, what does the future of secular ministry looks like? And I'm leaning into this, and major shout out to Chris Mallard at the Daily Atheist Morning Show, because he was definitely one of the most vocal people to say, Darante, you really need to lean into this atheist preaching thing. And the thing is, like, there's never been a moment that I haven't been, but I have tried not to use the language, right? And just to be clear, it's not that I've been afraid per se, but I've tried not to use the language because I understand that it's triggering for some, but of course, the more I lean into it, it just is what it is. Man, oh, I love that rainbow, Ash. That is absolutely beautiful. So, so I've definitely been leaning into that more. And for those of you who know, I've taken a sabbatical. I'm currently on sabbatical, which interestingly enough, if you see what the sabbatical has been doing for me, it's been giving me freedom to actually be a little bit more active. And so watch this. My sabbatical has been from live shows and from the Discord, which is really more so about setting myself free from the pressure. Like, listen, y'all, I know how to do a lot of things because I started my church from scratch. I pastored two churches. Well, actually, I pastored three churches, but I pastored two churches that I built from scratch. And I literally had to do everything. So people want to know, man, how are you so good at thumbnails? Because I had to do all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all from experience, and it isn't just about knowing how to do a thing. It's about understanding people and about paying attention to them. Shit, lost myself. Anyway, preaching is the whole point. So I've been leaning more into that. And of course, people are like, man, damn, Darante, you sound like a preacher. So I've been taking the sabbatical away from live shows and Discord. And in taking the sabbatical, I've actually given myself more freedom to do more live shows and to be a little bit more present in the Discord without having to commit myself. Because this is a good lesson for anybody who's trying to manage a lot right now. One of the things that I remind myself is that a lot of the pressure that I'm feeling isn't from other people, it's from me. And I always have to kind of calibrate that. So I'll look at my plate and I'm like, oh shit, bruh, there's a whole lot on your plate. And I'm like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I got to get this done. And then I'm like, oh no, actually, nobody else even know I'm doing that. So that's not even that much of a rush. But a lot of times, so this sabbatical has definitely helped me kind of take some of that pressure off and to remind myself, like, I don't have to hold myself to a standard of a production expert. That's not what I am. I'm a subject matter expert on a many of things. Production is not one of them. I can make it do what it do because I had to do that when I launched my church from scratch. But other than that, mm-mm. And so this sabbatical has really been about removing pressure from myself so that I can be more focused. And one of the things that have come out of that, of course, within the first week of the sabbatical, I designed the BC 101 course, How We Change the World. And that's for those of you who are connected to us on the BridgeCity Global arm. And just to kind of, y'all can get a lot of rabbit holes tonight, so get ready. BridgeCity Global is just one of the many things we're doing. We have BridgeCity Global, we have Window Shop, we have Omniverse, we have Freedom House for those of you who are into writing and publishing. It takes time to get all this stuff off the ground, but we have a lot. So in the middle of this, we developed BridgeCity 101. And so if you want to be a part of BridgeCity Global, that's your starting place. Go through BridgeCity 101, interact with the other members, graduate that course. When you graduate that course, you get added into the alumni study hall where you get to not only interact with other members of BridgeCity Global, people who've graduated the course, but you also get, announcements that are happening, and you get to participate in whatever's coming up. So like last week, the people in our alumni study hall got the opportunity to choose which conversation we were going to have for Sunday sessions. And so you get stuff like that going on too. So it's all of that. That's right. Don't overdo it. One has to balance, man. Changes water into Four Loko. I believe, hey, bro, wine, you got to drink too much of that to get the right type of tipsy. Apparently, my battery is running low. Okay, I fixed it. I think I fixed it. All right, so I'm kind of back. And now you get to see the magic. I am getting my computer pulled back up, but your boy is nimble. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack jumped over the candlestick. Now, you know what? I want to use this to talk about how I would have approached this while my computer's coming back up, because I am not going to be holding this phone while y'all are looking at my green screen and everything else that is in my garage of an office. Like I feel naked right now. Jack burnt his butt. That's funny. Oh shit, I think it went right back in. We'll see. But what's funny is that, like, when I was a believer, when I was a pastor, had this same thing happen, I would have swore for God that somebody was praying against me, that this was spiritual warfare. And I would have been calling all of my staff saying, you need to be praying right now because we've got to rebuke this demon. And I would have been really upset, and I would have taken it very personal. And now I don't. There is nothing about it that's personal for me at all. At this moment, it's just like, nah, it's technology. Which is why y'all have noticed sometimes I am somewhat dismissive of people who complain about things when quality isn't right. It's like, number one, I'm not about to let you hold me to the quality of YouTube and Amazon and Netflix. This is a one-man show over here, okay? I ain't got a whole studio of engineers. And I think I'm back in. Let me see. And then I'll be able to see everybody's chat again. But Jack be nimble. Jack be quick. Jack almost broke this shit. All right, so here we go. Let me switch over. Bam. And I can, oh no, don't end the screen. Almost ended the stream. We don't want to do that. All right, can y'all hear me okay? Back then, you was a poor fella. I love that. That's right. I really was a poor fella back then, man. Like life, that's damn sure how I treated myself. And so I'm going to give myself some time to calibrate now that I'm back in here. And then we're going to jump into this conversation. I hope y'all have been enjoying it so far. For those of you who are watching after the fact, I got to fix the camera and stuff again. Y'all seeing the magic. There we go. For those of you who are joining, for those of you who are watching this later instead of live, hey, I'm just hanging out with the family tonight. So it is what it is. If you don't like it, kick rocks in the most beautiful way, like in a humanist way, in a way that I am not dehumanizing you, right? But I want to share y'all this before I go biggie screen again for me. And it's just something to give y'all a reminder for those of you who haven't seen it. Some of y'all have seen this because I've shared this at least twice on my channel, but our channel has grown. We entered 2024 with 52 subscribers. We exited 2024 with around 5,000 to 6,000 subscribers. Y'all know where we're at today. So we've had over 30,000 people, subscribers. Actually, at this moment, nearly 40,000 subscribers join our channel in 2025 alone. And so maybe some of you haven't seen this video, but a lot, if you look through my comments, one of the things that Christians like to say, he was never a preacher. There was no way he was never a preacher. Well, here's the evidence.
Give you this. For my intellectuals, for my people who are not yet sold, why shout? Pastor Ron, why is a shout important? Why is a shout even necessary? What in the world do you need me to shout for? Because in essence, the word shout really just means increase your volume. Uh-oh. It means you're not loud enough. Hold on, let me do this real quick. I'm about to give y'all something I ain't getting 9:30. Oftentimes when I'm walking in the grocery store, I always notice that there's one particularly unruly child. And yeah. And the child will ask his mama for something, and he'll be like, Mama, let me get them Snickers. And mama be like, no, baby, we ain't got no Snickers money. And he'll be like, okay. Mama, let me get them Snickers. And mama be like, no, baby, we ain't got no Snickers, mama. money. Now, y'all got different mamas, so this next part ain't gonna relate to y'all, but you gonna feel me because you done seen it. The next thing the little boy proceeds to do is fall out on the floor. And he opens his mouth as loud as he can. And he's like, Mama! I want that nigga! I want that nigga! Now everybody else looking at the little boy like he need his behind beat. But if he didn't do nothing else, right or wrong, he got his mama's attention. Because now she don't want the whole store looking at her like she ain't taking care of her kids. So that she started reaching in her purse. I'ma find you some snicker money today. I may beat you when you get home, but I'ma find that money right now because you shouted to me. Somebody open your mouth right there. Give you this. For my intellectuals, for my people who are not yet sold.
I gotta stop it. Okay, so yes, that was me back in, I want to say that was 2013. So that was shortly before I deconverted. I have a few more videos from around that time. But I share that video a lot because that video was shortly before I deconverted publicly. What was very interesting is that I had already deconverted privately in that video. And so I literally just smoked a whole blunt before preaching that message and absolutely killed. And that was just that message, along with some others, were kind of like my test with God while I was deconverting, to see like, all right, I am 100% not believing in you whatsoever, and I'm high and I'm preaching, and there isn't this moment, which is what I thought for so long when I was a young minister, that if you're not right with the Lord, if you don't believe in God, if your heart's not in the right place, God is going to take your anointing. And what I realized in moments like those is that I had been giving credit to God for my charisma. I had been calling my charisma God's anointing. As a matter of fact, in the Pentecostal churches and the charismatic churches, that's what the anointing is. The anointing is charisma, charismata. And so, like, for those of you who do have a charismatic personality, you probably remember the church kind of leeching off of you because, you know, you were able to reach people in a different way, you know. But so I kind of realized at that moment, like, oh, this ain't God, this me. Like, I'm high as hell, like I was so high, like I had to travel for that one. I was so high, like when we was on the way there, like I went in the bath. We had stopped at a rest area to go to the bathroom, and on the way out, like I had slipped and fell in the mud, and like my clothes was messed up. So when I got to the church, they was like, "Damn, Pastor Ron, what happened to you?" That was they just called me Pastor Ron, and then they called me Rev Ron because yeah, Ron's house, and you know I do kind of got the Run DMC vibe, Run DMV. Damn, why can't I get this shit out right? Well, you know why, but the you know I had the vibe, you know. Even though I wasn't bald back then, I was close to it, not all the way there. I was fighting for dear life, you know. But high as fuck, and still got up there and did just like performatively an amazing job. You heard how the crowd was. And the reason I wanted to kind of share that tonight, because that's right, Rev Ron Puggles, Run DMC, right? Look, I was going DMV because that's where my wife and I met. I was living in the DMV. My wife was living in the DMV when we met. And when we met, like I was gung-ho for the Lord. Like we literally met through a Christian campus ministry that I had started at Gwynn Park High School in Accokeek, Maryland, or Brandywine, Maryland. I was living in Accokeek at the time. And then, of course, I also lived in Upper Marlboro, lived in Forestville, lived in Southeast, lived a few places. But I thought of this because, honestly, contrary to proper belief, preaching is not something that I regret, you know. And I often tell people that I was a preacher before I was a Christian. And that's why I made that statement about what many churches prey on as charismatic personalities. The church didn't invent charismata. Charismatic personalities have existed at least since the time of ancient Egypt, because this is where Plato, according to his own words, gets his ideology about the 4 types of people who are capable of taking over the world or leading movements. It's more like that. But one of those movements was a charismatic type of person. This predates Christianity or even any type of Christocentric theology by literally, by at this moment, 1500 years for Plato and several hundred, not, I don't want to say several 100,000 years, but several thousand years for ancient Egyptians. And so if you think about like stuff like the Myers-Briggs test, which, I won't lead credence into as hard science, but I do remind people that there is a soft science behind those things. And that's kind of what philosophy does, is that it kind of gives us a point of reference for some of those softer sciences that we don't have the hard tools to understand yet. And that's what theology was at one point. Theology started as a soft science. And man, I feel like I'm preaching better than y'all responded. Theology started as a soft science for cosmology. And the better we have gotten, and the better our understanding of cosmology has become, we have been able to evolve that into astronomy, astrophysics, physics, and even things beyond that. And so, we just really no longer, I can take this off. Well, I'll take this off in a few. I'm gonna keep it on for now. But all right, so big point is preaching was as performative as it was. And actually, I became a much better preacher as I was deconverting. As a fully converted preacher, someone who believed that God was responsible for all of this and that we shouldn't do anything that the Holy Spirit isn't leading us to do, I was a decent communicator. I didn't use notes or anything like that. I just get up every Sunday and get my Bible out, read a scripture, and talk through it. I was very much more like the word of faith preachers in those early days. It took me a while to embrace the performative aspect of preaching because I thought that was anti-God. And this is actually a good point to hand out, to highlight. I thought the performative part of preaching was anti-God because it was conforming to humanity. And I want to highlight that for the secular community. I'm going to take this off for a minute. I want to highlight that for the secular community. The performative aspect of preaching is the least superstitious aspect of preaching. The less superstitious I became, the more performative I became, because then the more performative I became as a preacher, the more I was leaning into the aspect or to the ideology that what I do as preaching isn't a service to God. It's a service to humanity. It's a service to people who are having to wrestle with the hardships of life, who were unequipped or ill-equipped by public education, who were ill-equipped by familial systems or cultural systems, and they get to connect to this system. This is how I thought about it as a pastor at that time. They get to connect to this system, which is a fresh opportunity for them to reconnect with themselves and learn things that matter to them. Now, of course, at the time, I thought the things that mattered was God, was Jesus, of course. And of course, now I realize, like, no, you just don't get to pick the things that matter to other people, period. Which is one of the hardest things about building a movement. We'll talk about BridgeCity Global, about building a movement like BridgeCity, is that so many people are used to that authoritarian relationship that they're expecting to come into a movement where someone's going to tell them what to do. And that's not what BridgeCity is to me. And I hope, I know I have no control over it after I'm gone, but I hope that it never becomes that. BridgeCity should be the type of place where people are able to determine, like, where am I in life? What can I do in life? And this is what I can do until I can't. And then when I can't, there's no judgment, no pressure. Let me step away. We have to we have to work with different models, So anyway, the performative preaching aspect for me is a part of the aspect that led me further and further into humanism. because I realized that I deeply cared about the way people related to what was then my sermons. I cared about what they got from those moments. I cared about how they were impacted by those moments. And this has all been kind of fresh for me because on this sabbatical, I've been working on creating courses, right? And really just courses for DLDD World Group for the people who want to work with us on a professional level, and courses for BridgeCity Global for people who want to do more ministry related stuff. And there's a free course on BridgeCity Global or Bridge University rather, for those who just want to learn more about BridgeCity Global and possibly become a member. If you graduate, you're a member of BridgeCity. I don't know if I have anybody in the chat who has that link, but if you're there, drop that link in the chat for people. But I've also been developing something called the People-Centric Ministry Foundations course, which is for those who actually not just want to be members of something like Bridge City, but you'd be interested in being leaders, in whatever way that means for you. And so we're building that course out. And we're going to talk about that more in this upcoming Sunday session that I'm having with Kyle and Derek. But one of the courses, modules that I decided to build into that course was about secular hermeneutics and secular homiletics. I'm curious, how many of you are familiar with the term hermeneutics? Because that's what we're talking about tonight. We're in the meat of the conversation tonight. We're talking about secular preaching, which is obviously what I do. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know what else to call it. I'm a preacher, but when I deconverted, that's what I told people. I told people I was a preacher long before Christianity, and I wasn't gonna allow Christianity to take that away from me. Let me see. I just saw somebody, Jacques, and let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name, Jacques. But analysis of a text, absolutely. I love it. Yes, hermeneutics. It's the analysis or the interpretation, really, of anything, right? It has been, in the same way that community has been co-opted by religious folks as something that particularly pertains to religious texts. But a hermeneutic is simply the way you interpret things, right? So as a pastor, as a Christian pastor, one of the things that I held prizeworthy was an ability to have a sound hermeneutic, right? And as a Christian pastor, that sound hermeneutic was my ability to interpret or analyze the Bible, the scripture. But as a person who was sociologically trained and invested, I got my first degree in sociology because I realized that much of the work I did as a pastor was actually in the realm of industrial organizational psychology. And I was like, oh shit, there's a whole degree for this. And that's a whole nother story. Damn it. But so building this out, hermeneutic is an interpretation of a text. And as a pastor, that was my job, to do my best to make sure I had a sound hermeneutic, a sound interpretation, or a sound analysis of the thing that I'm sharing on Sundays. And that's some of the stuff that we're providing in the People-Centric Ministry Foundations course, which that one is not ready yet. I've only made that available to one person, and that's just because that person made it through BC 101 so quick that I didn't want them to be bored. And so if you're one of those people and you made it through BC 101 and you're like, I don't want to wait for you to finish it, I can get started now, let me know. I'll throw you in there. But there is a whole module in that on hermeneutics and homiletics and talking about that from a secular perspective. And that's why I opened this video stream up with this, this clip from Eurotrip. Scotty doesn't know. Did y'all see it? I see we have a few people in here who was not in here when we were in there before. By the way, we have over 100 people watching right now. If you haven't liked, subscribed, and shared yet, go ahead and do that. Also, I have an all-access conference call coming up with that is only, it's exclusively for patrons, paid patrons, YouTube members, BC 101 graduates, which is a free course. So for those of you where money is your problem, go to the BC 101 if you want to be on this, and people who bought products from Windows Shop. It'll be all access. Ask Me Anything. That's coming up on June the 20th. Check that out. All right. So for those of you who are just joining, I want to make sure you have the full experience just like everybody else. So enjoy this for a moment, and I'll be back.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Got a little special thing I'd like to do tonight. I'll play a little song for you about the nastiest, freakiest little sex puppet I know, Fiona. This one's for you, baby. Happy anniversary.
Scotty doesn't know that Fiona and me do it in my van every Sunday. She tells him she's in church, but she doesn't go. Still she's on her knees, and Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Fiona says she's out shopping, but she's under me and I'm not stopping. 'Cause Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. I can't believe he's so trusting. While I'm right behind you thrusting, Fiona's got him on the phone. Yes, she's trying not to phone. It's a three-way call and he knows not.
All right. So I showed you this because this is really what the meat of tonight's conversation is about, or at least this movie, not necessarily the fact that Scotty doesn't know that his girlfriend of several years is banging Matt Damon as a rock star, which yikes. Which for those of you who don't know, that movie was Euro Trip. I don't remember the year that it came out. Really easy to find. Excellent movie. I laughed my ass off the whole movie, but I was a teenage boy when I watched it, so that might have had something to do with it. But I think I've watched it recently as an adult, and I think I had the same amount of laughs. But I want to show you another scene from that movie because last year, at the end of last year, someone reached out to me who knew me in high school and asked, like, hey, man, I knew you were really on fire for the Lord. And I definitely was. Like, I led revivals when I was in high school. And they were like, you're really on fire for the Lord. What happened to you between now and then? And in talking about secular preaching and secular hermeneutic, I pulled from a scene in Euro Trip in the same way that I would have pulled from a scripture in the Bible, which is why I have a video out there about how preaching is secular. Christianity didn't invent preaching. Preaching is not something that evolved from religion. There were preachers long before they were co-opted by religion. Preaching is something that actually belongs to philosophy, even going all the way back to sophist, which is the S-O-P-H in sophist. But anyway, I pulled a moment from this movie to kind of explain. And so I want to share that scene for you, and let's see what our thoughts are.
Marijuana in my soul. Marijuana in my heart.
I can't believe we're doing this.
Don't worry, hash brownies are totally legal here.
You're gonna enjoy these. These are magical.
You want to do this? Huh?
What's so funny?
I'm really hungry. I think I've got the munchies. Excuse me.
hot? 'Cause I'm really hot. Okay, I can't breathe. Oh, I'm freaking out. And I think we got a bad batch because I'm freaking out. I can't do this. I saw a gay porno once. I didn't know until halfway in. The girls never came. The girls never came! I am freaking out!
Is everything all right with your mom?
No, nothing's all right. You sold us a bad batch of hash brownies. You're a bad Rastafarian.
These are not ash brownies.
What was that?
We do not serve ash brownies here. We are simply Dutch bakery. Now put your clothes back on, white boy.
Marijuana in my soul. Marijuana in my heart.
Can't believe we're doing this.
Okay. All right. So this scene this scene was one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. The only one, like, there's two more that that does feel like you've been gaslit, right, Rainbow? If you haven't seen the movie yet, please go see it. Like, it's actually really good. There's a scene where they do this absinthe thing. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. But so in this scene, the character describes a moment where he sits down to describe to watch what he thinks is a straight pornographic film, right? And he comes prepared. Lotion, tissues, the whole ritual of expectation. But 30 minutes in, you know what I'm saying, or however long in, the anticipated experience never arrives. He says, the women never came. The women never showed up. It's not what he signed up for. And the realization is jarring. He missed the signs. And the thing that he was faithfully participating in wasn't what he thought it was. And so when someone asked me, Darante, you were so on fire for the Lord when you were in high school, and then you went on to pastor a church, and then you did all of these great miraculous things. What changed? I go from a secular hermeneutic, and that's what I mean when I'm talking about secular preaching, being able to answer questions in a way that people can understand. You know, there was a quote, I don't remember who originated, but they said that people who put themselves in a position without reason is not what's going to get them out of it. And so in the words of Aretha Franklin, baby, you got to give them something they can feel. And so that's what I try to do. That's what secular preaching is. Damn, that's what I should have named this video tonight. This video tonight should have been called Giving Them Something They Can Feel, because that's what secular preaching is. Secular preaching is not only giving them something they can understand, God damn it, but giving them something they can feel. And so from a secular hermeneutic, in order to give this person an understanding of why I deconverted, why I deconstructed, I pulled from a movie that exists within our cultural zeitgeist, something that they could easily reference, and pulled a scene that was funny, that had some resonance, and then just let them know, like, hey, the same way Scotty showed up to watch this movie in full expectation that he was going to see some boobies and some penetration. And then he's waiting there. He got his lotion. He got his napkins. His dick is on hard, full mushroom, purple, and everything. And the women never show up. And I said, that was me in Christianity. That was me in ministry. Many of you waited on the outside of the room, but me, like Scotty, I went in, put the tape in the VCR, had the lotion, had the napkins or the socks. You know, everybody ain't got it like that. I was fully engaged. I was fully committed. And the women never showed up. The thing that I signed up for, it didn't happen. I had to keep coalescing myself into thinking that this is something other than what I signed up for. And it wasn't what it was. And so I use that as a funny way to help people understand that it's really easy to get why people deconstruct. But I think sometimes what we have temptation to do is we have the temptation to walk people through everything that's wrong with the Bible. And to me, the problem with that is the people who actually believe the Bible don't know everything that's right with the Bible. They were never convinced that the Bible was right. Reason isn't what got them there. Resonance is. And so if we want to be, if we want to win the war of attrition, we're gonna have to resonate a little higher. You know what I'm saying? There's a scene from Inception that I absolutely enjoy where they said, learn how to dream a little bigger, baby. And that's kind of where I live in my life. I'm always trying to dream bigger. This is why, and some of you will not like me for this, but I mean, it's who I am. I don't hold anybody else to be anybody else that they're not. So I'd appreciate you not to be the same to me. But this is why I don't jump in on bandwagons to dehumanize people. I am honestly looking for a better way. It was Dr. King who said, "An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind." And while Dr. King and I do not align on a lot of things, that is one of the things that we absolutely do align on. I think we, even in the secular community, we have to find better ways. But I wanted to share this, man, because this is a great example of using a secular hermeneutic. And the way that the person responded was, "Damn, I feel that. I still believe what I believe, but damn, I feel that." And that's the whole point, right? If we're going to be able to reach people, we have to realize that humanity exists beyond the realm of the logical, and that for many, and this is sad to me, but for many, the logical is like a ramp that you have to get to. It's like a club that you have to be initiated into. And this is why for so long, especially in Western society, knowledge has seemed to be associated with secret societies and secret fraternities and things of that nature. And I think we have to shift as far from that as possible. And so, and in many ways, what I learned is that by being a pastor, especially one of the contemporary urban scene, in the charismatic circles, that I was very much a part of a secret society that had inside knowledge that I'm doing my best to take from the inside and share with the outside to help people understand that this might be the missing piece from what you might not be understanding about why religious people stay religious, and so again, and a part of that is like we can lay out sound logical defenses all day, but by doing so, we're ignoring the fact that it wasn't sound logical defenses that got these people to believe in the first place. And we have to stop undermining resonance and collective effervescence. And I use that term collective effervescence. There's two people who popularized this term: Emil Durkheim, sociologist, and Daniel Dennett. These were terms they used. We have to stop undermining these as tools, because what these are, and what I'll kind of say here is, I'm kind of tiptoeing here because I'm not a fan of this concept that I'm about to mention, but the concept is social proof. So social proof is this concept that marketers and people in the motivation racket typically use to grow their followings. And it's something, if you notice, if the longest you've been connected with me, that I really try to stay away from, because it's the idea that, if they want to live like me, they'll support me, right? So let me show them pictures of my life being successful, my life being great. Let them see me on vacation. If you notice, I don't do that now. And it's somewhat unfortunate because I would like to take pictures, of my family every now and then and share them. But I do kind of resist that because I don't like us leaning into the idea of vicariously living through other people. I love the idea of learning through other people. I love the idea of being exposed to new possibilities to other people. Oh, thank you for that, RMP. Yes, I think that was Michelle Trachtenberg. Yes. But I love that. I love those ideas, but to the point when we get to the place where it's like this person's life has to be my life, I have to do what they do, I think that's a slippery slope. And so I try to avoid that. I don't want people mistaking success for credibility. Just because I'm successful doesn't mean I'm credible. Just because things are going well in my life doesn't mean I'm credible. And on the flip side of that, the reason why I lean into that so heavily is because on the other side, when I'm not successful, that doesn't mean that I'm not credible. And I think we have a hard time actually being able to measure credibility nowadays. That's something I noticed growing up in my community, is that we tend to measure credibility by how shiny somebody's shoes were, or whether their colors matched. Were they color blocking it right? Was their lineup good? Was their fade clean? And this determined whether they were credible. And I resist that type of framework, because that's how we built successive generations of people who are susceptible to misinformation, because they're using all types of shortcuts to determine what is accurate and what is credible, instead of understanding, no, does this shit make sense, bruh? And so it just becomes, he sound like he know what he was talking about. How the fuck he sound like he would know what he talking about if you don't know what the fuck he was talking about? No, that's not how that works. And so I push for that. So big thing here is secular preaching in this sense, which is, I guess, is what I do, is not necessarily this idea. Preaching isn't about a doctrine or an idea. Preaching is really just the art of communication. And it's the professional art of communication. Motivational speakers are preachers, life coaches are preachers, press secretaries are preachers. That's all that is. And I honestly think, and y'all tell me what you think. I'm not against feedback here. I think the secular community needs more preachers. I think we just need to draw the line in the sand around that. Like, we can be preaching, but we don't need to preach doctrine. Which y'all let me know how I've done on that. That's one of the things that I've tried to make sure that with this channel that I don't do. Like, I'm doing my best to never ever tell you what to think. I'm sharing what I think and trying to ground that in as much truth as I can, while letting you know that it's simply a point of reference for you. It's just a frame of reference for you. What you do with that information is up to you. I'm never checking to say, no, who doing it like I said do it, unless you work for me. Now, if you work for me, that's a whole nother story, because that's more so about productivity and functionality. But as far as your personal life, no. Because the truth be told, I think one of the most damaging things that the church did was try to create these one-size-fits-all standards or frameworks for approaching life, which absolutely destroys our ability to learn from people who are approaching life a different way. So what I'd much rather for us to do is, when we come to these conversations, please do not see me as your teacher. I am an educator. Yes, I am a communicator, but I'm not your teacher. I am a mirror of possibilities. I'm not your master. I am a mirror of possibilities, and what you want to be, you have ultimate control over. And honestly, those are the type of people that I'm interested in having conversations with, because that's how we build better worlds, when we can come together not feeling insecure about our own thoughts and our own ideas and our own ideologies, while interacting with others. And sorry to pull on this Christianese, and let that iron sharpen iron. You know what I'm saying? Is this, so as we're kind of diving into this and getting close to wrapping up, I want to talk to you a little bit, man. I want to talk to you. I love y'all. Y'all are so awesome. I want to talk to you a little bit about what hermeneutics are, and someone did a great job of already giving us a kind of definition, and it's the analysis of a text or the interpretation of a text. And from a secular perspective, because secular humanists are not beholden to any text. You know what I'm saying? Fuck text, you know? So much so, like I have as many issues with the Constitution as I have with the Bible. That's a whole nother other conversation, though, you know? But we're not beholden to any text. So then what then would be hermeneutics from a secular humanist lens? Then hermeneutics from a secular humanist lens is the interpretation of life, which that was the whole purpose of hermeneutics from the whole point. It was never supposed to be text driven. Hermeneutics gets co-opted when Christianity comes to power in 380 and becomes and gets to become the parent of all things Greco-Roman. But no, hermeneutics has always been the philosophy and the methodology of interpretation. And that interpretation can be involved with text, it can be involved with symbols, and it can be involved with meaning-making systems. And I think for me as a visionary, one of the things that I think we're missing in the secular community, possibly, and I could be wrong here, are more conversations on how we interpret the world, you know? And that's what hermeneutics are about. From a Christian perspective, their whole idea of the world is the Bible. The Bible is the word of God, and the word of God is the most supreme thing in the world. So from a humanist perspective, then we just get to switch our subject. Our subject then is not God. We don't view a God as the most supreme things in the world, nor do we view, which means we would not view any God's doctrine or any prophet's doctrine, including myself. Any people who come out and be an atheist prophet or a secular prophet. No, the point is like, and I'm like this with even with my children, like even when kind of doing estate planning and planning, you know, like how things will be divvied out when I'm no longer here. I'm very careful about not trying to take my views of the world now and enforce them on my children then. Because you know, I just think that's a slippery slope. But it's about having an interpretation of the world around you. And the thing about interpretation is it's hard to have an interpretation without an understanding. So for those of us who were in biblical hermeneutics, one of our guiding pillars of understanding was in all of your getting, get understanding. And of course, that's how we approach the Bible. We try to do everything we could to understand everything that we could in the Bible. Now, when I deconverted, I actually kept that little pillar of approach. And now that's my approach to the world. And all of my getting, I want to get understanding. I want to understand things. And so that's where a secular hermeneutic comes in. It's not just wanting to have a judgment. It's wanting to have an understanding. It's not just wanting to have a critique. It's not just wanting to have a criticism. It's not just wanting to have an opinion. It's not just wanting to have a thought. It's wanting to have an understanding. And it's from that understanding that you can develop a hypothesis about life that you can share with others, not as a rule of doctrine, but as something that can help them refine their own ways of approaching life. So this weekend, we have Kyle Butler and Derek Day, who are going to be joining me, where we're going to be talking about mission, methodology, message, mindset, and membership in building global community that's secular and beyond superstition. But the week after that, I'm going to have Drew on with us, former president of the Clergy Project, pastor to evangelical churches. And we're going to be talking about your next life now, because that's something that those are the type of conversations we're not really having in this community, while knowing that there are people out there who are struggling to feed their loved ones, struggling to figure out what's next for them. So many people watching this stream right now, it's like, man, if I had a better job, if I had a better community, if I had better retirement, then I could actually do more for the people I care about. And I'm like, well, if anybody needs to be leading the charge in that conversation, hello, it needs to be us. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think so. Might be wrong, but I don't think so. That's from Monk. I don't know if y'all watch that. But so that's where hermeneutics kind of come into play. Secular hermeneutics then is the interpretation of meaning, existence, and experience without reference to the supernatural. It doesn't lean into asking questions like, what did God want out of this? What did God mean from this? Why, it really looks at what was this? I think God has been the abstraction. God has been the thing in the way. And the sad thing is, I think sometimes when we move into secularism, we throw out God, but we don't replace it with humanism. I think once we understand that God was the abstraction, then we can understand that humanity was the point. And so that then meaning making was never about needing the superstition. Meaning making was about finding ways to need each other and make that mean something. And so one of the things that I charge the secular community to, and not in a hateful way, hopefully in a loving way, I hope we receive it that way, but in a way is that like, okay, we have to make our atheism mean something. We have to make our humanism mean something. We have to do some meaning making with our secularism, because there are people out there who are being molested. There are people out there who are being abused. There are people out there who rights are being taken away. There are people out there who are being oppressed. There are people in other societies who can't even imagine what rights would be. And so our atheism and our humanism has to evolve beyond I'm wrong and you're right. It has to evolve into a place that I am here, and that as long as I'm here, this is going to be a place where you're going to be safe. And I get it. That shit don't happen overnight. It happens intentionally. It does not happen overnight, but it does happen intentionally, which means, hey, the only way we get it 3 years from now, if the only way we get it 3 years from now is if people start working on it today. And so, yes, like a lot of my conversations, they are geared towards people who want to take that extra step. I know there are quite a few people who want to stay on the sidelines, and I get that, and I honor that. There are quite a few reasons. People have been traumatized, people have been used, people have been downplayed, people need to recover. But while they're recovering, we also need some builders. And I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense. So secular hermeneutics or secular preaching, rather, which is kind of what we're talking about, is asking in moments like, what does this tell us about humans? What does this tell us about our desires? What does this tell us about our fears? What does this tell us about our frameworks? What are the social, psychological, historical, or cultural forces shaping this idea? And how do I make meaning without outsourcing it to a deity or to something I can't explain? And I think I need to make that clear. It's not just not outsourcing it to a deity. It's not outsourcing it to bullshit, period. I think that's the thing that kind of gets missed sometimes. The problem isn't that the thing you outsource your agency to is a deity. Hell, it could have been a unicorn for all I care. If it's bullshit, it doesn't work. And that's my main concern. One of the things that I hope we can see as a community, that in spite of many of the issues that are taking place in this world, we have to realize how much believing in bullshit has contributed to that. And so I think one of our number one priorities as a global society needs to be helping people navigate bullshit, in their own pace, because we have to release this mythology of perfection. Other people aren't going to come to the conclusions that you came to in the same time spans that you came to. That world just doesn't exist, at least not yet. So we have to give people some grace to grow, but we also have to create that space that makes it possible. I hope this is making sense, man. That's right. That's right. No time like the present. I always say this is not yesterday's work. This is not today's work. This is yesterday's work. This is yesterday's work. So the reason I was able to provide this moment from Eurotrip, pull on this moment in a way that resonated so well with someone who knew me when I was an on fire preacher who was laying hands on people and casting out devils, is because I used the same tools that I would have used as a pastor, except for in this case, in my opinion, this is why I'm such a fucking beast, is that I'm no longer limited to just 66 books. So when someone asks me a question as a secular communicator, as a person who decides, who desires to speak to the heart and the mind of humanity, I'm no longer limited to 66 books from a very small time period in humanity. I can now pull from anything that existed, that humans have created, that humans are responsible for, any story, including the Bible, including the Quran, including the Vedas, including the Book of Mormon. I don't know why I would, but I could, but Red Riding Hood, Star Wars, Star Trek. It's understanding secular hermeneutics is understanding that it's the human experience itself that is the text that we should be interpreting. The living word, as I would have said when I was a pastor, is humanity. Humanity. Or I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this human exceptionalism thing. I can fall into that trap. I'm not a human exceptionalist. I do understand humanism is where we are now, but I know that we're fastly moving towards a post-humanist society. But it's life, and it's understanding that. And I want you to think about something. Whether you're talking about capitalism or communism, none of the societies that we've created outside of religion have created any branches of professionalism that are paying attention to just life and the evolution of living things and the relation of living things in that way that responds to humanity. And that's a gap that secular preachers can feel. It's not telling people what to believe. It's giving people something that they can feel while they're navigating their own understanding of the world that they're in. Y'all tell me what y'all think about that, because I feel like that was cold-blooded. And so, and I thought this was dope because in this sense, it was like spot of the moment. She sent me a Facebook message, and by the way, she's somebody that I would have called back then a dyke. She was actually one of my best friends, but she's a lesbian. She's married to her partner in Alabama. They've had a stronger relationship than most hetero people. So have been doing very well. But she was seriously curious about what would cause someone who was as charismatic as I and as faithful as I to depart from the faith. And I wanted to pull something that would have some resonance with her, that would relate to her, that would be relevant to her, and that would also be funny. And this is why I say preaching isn't something that's just resigned to the church. The church has never owned preaching. If you pay attention to a good comedy special, man, that's church. You know what I'm saying? You get you a good world leader that knows how to speak. That's church. Hell, sometimes you can be even in a sentencing with a judge and he just do what's right and it feels like church. And so secular preaching, we need to understand that preaching is nothing more than communication. You know what I'm saying? And so this moment worked, this analogy worked, this hermeneutic worked because it highlighted a moment of ritual without revelation. So in the moment, Scotty is involving himself in a ritual that most of us are familiar with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you beat your meat or not. You ain't got to beat your meat to be familiar with this ritual, but most of us are familiar with the ritual. When Scotty starts talking about, like, I'm in there, the video playing, I got the lotion, he didn't need to say nothing else. for us to know exactly what he was setting himself up for. You know, that's ritual. When someone can explain, when someone can describe just a few things they're doing, and you immediately know what's coming after that, that's ritual. And so what this presents, this analogy worked for my friend because this highlighted a ritual without revelation. So just like a believer praying for God, Scotty performs all the right rituals. He shows up ready to receive, but nothing comes. But this also works, but because it highlights a misinterpretation of the experience. The movie for Scotty, the movie's title, the setup, or packaging, it misled him. He had some thoughts, he had presumptions. He said, no, there's definitely going to be some penetration in this film. And when it didn't come, double entendre intended, when it didn't come, you know what I'm saying? It threw him for a loop. And that's what many people experience with Christianity through religious texts and traditions. You can feel like something is advertised, whether it's peace, protection, or divine presence, but the lived reality doesn't deliver. And so people eventually begin to ask, did I misread this? Or was the message never for me? And then that leads to the embarrassment of realizing that I just spent all my time watching something that I thought was going to lead somewhere, and it didn't lead to where I thought it was going to lead. And I was so ready. You know what I'm saying? I was ready, man. I was going to go strong like bull. You know what I'm saying? Type of situation. And it didn't happen. And as a pastor, I likely would have never been able to share that hermeneutic outside of a private conversation with pastors that I was mentoring. And this was actually one of the things that began to break my heart as a pastor, is that I realized that our most valuable conversations we were having behind closed doors. They weren't recorded. Nobody else could have those conversations. We couldn't talk about those things, you know, but in those private conversations, we'd have them. And so that's been one of my commitments since deconverting and coming back out publicly, is that no, I'm gonna talk about all this shit. I'm gonna talk about all of it. And I need to be able to. I need to be able to. That's the freedom that's important for me, you know? And so again, Scotty doesn't know. He's sitting there, he's waiting for the women to come in. The women don't come in. And that's what it was like for me. Like I was waiting for God to come. I was there fully erect. Let's go, Holy Spirit. Have your way in me. You know, I'm sitting there spread eagle, which, you know, sounds really bad now that I'm thinking about it, but that's really what it is. You know, it's like you're asking God to blow your back out. That's the expectation of a charismatic Christian. You want God to come and give you an experience that blows your back out. And as a grown ass man saying that shit out loud, you know, I'm not anti anybody else, but for my orientation, that feels really comfortable asking somebody else to blow my back out. So that just like, damn, you know, but no, it is what it is. It is what it is. But no, like that's what you're praying for. You're praying for God to come in and give you an experience where you can't walk the next day, you know, and it's just like, holy shit, why the fuck is this so sexual? Why is this happening like this? What is going on? You know, like I think that might be why I deconverted. I felt like I was being violated. You know what I'm saying? Like, yikes. Oh man, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm tripping. Am I tripping? Am I tripping? Okay, so we're talking about secular hermeneutics and secular preaching, but we're not just talking about it, y'all. I'm demonstrating it. All right. I'm demonstrating it. And not just in all of the other videos. In this conversation, what I'm doing in this conversation is showing you the power of conversation. And preaching is nothing more than intentional conversation. It's conversation with an intent. And my intent in this conversation is to edify you, is to elevate you, to entertain you a little bit, and hopefully to educate you. You know what I'm saying? And oh shit. I'm about to say something that's about to make y'all mad. Preachers have been more successful in this country than teachers, and we need to start understanding why. And that's because teachers are educated by a state institution, and preachers are educated in the school of hard knocks. We literally have to learn what works and what doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we want our churches to grow, I ain't talking about the preachers whose churches didn't grow now. If we want our churches to grow, we have to learn what works and what doesn't work and adapt to that shit. That's how you get hermeneutics and homiletics. And so when my friend asked me, I knew sharing a story with her that I would share with my friends who are already atheists wouldn't work. If I told her, well, you know, I just studied the Nicene Council and I realized that everything about Constantine was forged, she'd be like, what the fuck is any of that? I don't know what any of that means, because contrary to popular belief, most of the stuff means absolutely shit to Christians. And so, but when I told her, no, here's a scene from a popular movie. And in this scene, this guy does everything it takes to set himself up for the expectation that something is going to happen. He does everything. That was me, girl. I did everything. And I sat there with blue balls because God never showed up. Now, if that doesn't catch your attention, somebody put in the chat, that's good preaching. Is that Derek in the chat? Is my homie Myth Vision in the chat? Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that just blessed me. I'm on a different platform, so I can't see everything the way I normally see it tonight. But okay, so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about having a secular hermeneutic. And people get scared when they hear the terminology like secular preaching or secular ministry. And that's because you've already forfeited the idea of communicating to others to edify them to Christianity. Why would Christians be the only people allowed to edify other people? Why would Christians be the only people allowed to encourage and elevate other people? Why would Christians be the only one concerned with people's personal growth and development? No, don't do that. That's a losing hill. If you're going to choose a battle, if you're going to choose a hill to die on, don't choose that one. I'm just saying. I mean, you can, because I can't tell you what to do. You can, but I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you what to do, you know. So using secular hermeneutics is what I call it. And it's basically, for those of you who may not understand, hermeneutics simply means interpretation. And so it's just like having a secular interpretation of the world that I live in. And I think so many of us, when we become atheists, we automatically drift to nihilism. I just saw Derek said he has blue balls. I heard blue balls. Oh, damn, that's hilarious. But we automatically drift to nihilism. And yeah, nihilism is a reality from a certain perspective. I just so happen to believe that we're the meaning makers, that as humanity, we are the meaning makers. Like, one big event that I want to add to my portfolio of event is that every year I do want to do a global conference called Meaning Makers, where we just bring people together, some thought leaders, whatever, to remind people that we are the ones who can make meaning, because we're the ones that the meaning means something to. It don't mean shit to the raccoons. Your meaning don't mean shit to the raccoons. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you're the creator of meaning and you're the receiver of meaning. So I don't know where people get lost in that at. All right. So secular hermeneutic in this sense is just a secular interpretation of learning how to interpret your experiences, not through lenses of superstition or divinity or deity or dogma or even doctrine, but as lived experiences of humanity that, watch this, whether is a successful moment or a moment of failure, can contribute to the vast knowledge scape of humanity, And like, if I can encourage anybody, like, I know that failure hurt. I know it did. I know it was embarrassing. I know you still wrestle with a lot of shame and a lot of sorrow. But if I could help you reframe that, please remember that most of us who have any type of success, we learn it through the failures of others. You know what I'm saying? And so watch this. If we can learn through the failures of others, we need to give ourselves grace to learn through our own failures. You have to give yourself that. And if you do, you'd be surprised at how much you will pull from your life. Like I'm an advocate that everybody has to go through a season of fuck everybody else. I did. Oh shit, I did. Oh my goodness. And I think it's the only thing that now gives me the freedom to let everybody else live, man. Like, hey, you live like you're gonna live. Like, no, because you don't owe me your existence. You know, like I said, I'm a humanist. I don't know. Okay, so secular hermeneutics also help people free themselves from the guilt of not believing enough and realize that the system was never equipped to deliver what it promised. So once we realize that religion is a failed system, and I don't want to say, because y'all know I've been making this announcement since I first started doing interviews. I'm working on a book called The Case for Religion, and I've always said I am not anti-religious. I'm anti-superstition, and do with that what you will. But we need to understand that superstition, dogma, and authoritarian creeds were never equipped to deliver what they promised. Anything that's attached to think this way, do not question it, is not shaped for growth. It's not shaped for sustainability. And that's the problem with religion, and many other things, as we've seen. And so that's the thing that we have to unlearn. And so allowing ourselves to have a secular hermeneutic or a secular way that we approach life allows us to say that, yep, I have a knee-jerk reaction to view this way. I have a knee-jerk reaction to think about the world like this. But now that I know that I'm trying to ground my worldview in reason and criticality and even beauty, right? Because even when I say ground your worldview in reason and criticality, I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that we rob ourselves of the beauty of metaphor or even anthropomorphism. I am simply saying that when we're using those things, we know. If we're going to put our suspenders of disbelief on, let's at least know when to take them motherfuckers off, you know. But if we're gonna do these things, we have to create something for people, because if I've now interpreted my life through what does God want from me, and you need to understand, this is what I try to bring to the space. This is what I try to bring to the global space. What you need to understand is that because God never existed, okay, let's go there. In my worldview, right? I don't want to offend anybody. I don't care if I offend you. It is what it is. But because in my worldview, God never existed. When people say, what does God want me to do? What does God think about this? What they're really saying is, what does my mom want me to do? What does my dad want me to do? What does my grandparents want me to do? What does my family think is best? What has culture determined is the best way forward? And this is why I am very adamant about not becoming tribalistic in my approach to things. That anything I think, I want to think because I think it, not because I'm preferencing, is this going to be acceptable by these other folk? Otherwise, I am creating, for me, a slippery slope where I'm not actually processing my ideas. I am not actually putting my ideas in the marketplace of competition, but I am simply believing what is acceptable. And that's scary to me. I don't want to go there. So a secular hermeneutic is, damn, I didn't realize how critical it was. At this moment, it was just important for people, in my mind, up until this moment, it was just important for people who want to do secular ministry, right? Who want to help other people make meaning in their life and interpret their life. But now I realize, like, no, having a secular hermeneutic is equivalent to having a sound epistemology, you know? But I think one of the issues that we run into is when we think about epistemology, we're locked into the Bible. And I'm like, no, what is your epistemology about how you treat other people? What is your epistemology about how you engage the world? What is your epistemology? And see, that's what we're talking about, hermeneutic. How do you interpret your relationship with the world around you? Now, it's absolutely important for people like me who give themselves over to a vocation of communication so that I can make sure that when I talk about, and again, preaching is no different than what comedians do, in the sense that we both write scripts. And when we're writing those scripts, we're thinking about what's going to resonate with this audience and what's going to drive a point home. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is to help people realize that some of the lines of division that we've created, they don't fucking exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just all humanity. Damn, I hope y'all are enjoying this, man. I don't know. So another thing about secular hermeneutics is it's about reconstructing meaning in ways that are internally coherent, personally empowering, and relationally ethical. And here's the fucking thing. Here's the missing ingredient, right? Here's the missing ingredient. Last year, 2024, when I started producing content on this channel, my channel had 52 subscribers. 2024. Okay? We entered 2025 with roughly 6,000 subscribers. That was fucking miraculous, right? From 2024 to 2025, forgive me if you can hear Aston barking. Yes, my dog is named Aston Martin. Do with that what you will. But from 2024 to 2025, we grew from 52 to over 6,000 subscribers. But from January of 2025 till today, we're over 44,000 subscribers. And I'd suggest that a part of that is that this is somewhat of the secret sauce, is that I have a secular hermeneutic. You know what I'm saying? My dog can sing. Aston Martin music. Okay, sorry. So I have a secular hermeneutic, and I'm helping as many people as I can understand what that means, you know, and what it means is reconstructing meaning in a way that is internally coherent for other people. You know, see, the thing about religion, especially for me, and I can't speak for everybody's experience, but for me as a Christian preacher, my job was to make other people's experience align with the Bible instead of helping other people understand their experiences. And so while a religious hermeneutic or a superstitious hermeneutic is to try to enforce a way of thinking upon somebody, a secular hermeneutic is helping people interpret their own experiences with the world in a way that is internally coherent. Because if it is not internally coherent, it's not going to be sustainable for them. And so this is why, regardless of how many people identify with the label of Christian, less than 5% of them live the lifestyle, because it's not internally coherent. It makes no sense to the average Christian why I can't get booty when I want to. Makes no sense to them. So because it's not internally coherent, the Christian has more single mothers than atheists. The belief is not internally coherent for them. So what the secular community has an advantage in is that you're not trying to force beliefs on people. You're helping people understand their experiences with the world, and you're serving somewhat as a griot for my West African ancestors from Sierra Leone, somewhat as a griot, as an interpreter of their experience, their cultural affinity with the world around them. And there's room for that. There's need for that. Damn, like, y'all, this is getting good. Okay. But, and honestly, because I realized I told my wife today, because like, I'm supposed to be doing something else, and I had this idea, and now I'm on this way longer than I'm supposed to. So I'm actually behind on my work. But I realized today, I told my wife, I said, you know what? Many of my ancestors and my heroes that I've studied and that I've admired, you know, from a distance, I'm doing the work that they did. And for me, that's people like W.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, who were enemies while they were alive, at the same time. Hubert Henry Harrison, Carter G. Woodson, Langston Hughes, in the sense that I spend, almost every waking hour of my life creating content, not only to educate, but to elevate, and that's what they did. And then I even took that thought experiment further. They would stand on, number one, they'd publish content through newspapers, and they distribute them out to as many people who would receive them. And then they'd stand on the corners and lecture on that content. And I realized, like, damn, that's what I'm doing. That's what they were doing in the 20s, and that's what I'm doing in the 20s. Isn't that beautiful? There's just some type of, for lack of better words, providence there. But, that's what I'm doing. And that's what we're all doing. We're all out here, for those of us who are content creators. We're not just creators. We're not just content creators. We're communicators. We are revolutionaries in a sense. And I want to see as many revolutionaries out here as possible. And I also want to see people who are connecting and making those movements. All right, so I got to roll this down because I got to roll. Aston is apparently getting agitated. I don't know what's happening. But I want to share with you before I close this evening. And thank you all for joining me for this impromptu live. If you haven't liked this video yet, please do so. Like, subscribe, share this with anybody who you think it'll mean something to. And then if there's just some people you want to piss off, share it with them too. I'm cool with that. But I want to kind of highlight just the power of secular hermeneutics, what it does for people. And yes, is Darante trying to raise an army of secular preachers? You goddamn right, because we need it. Right now, over the past month, I've seen so much division and dissension arise in the secular community. And the thing that I haven't seen are people rise up as secular peacemakers. And that can't be me because I'm on the grind right now. I'm in my 50 Cent mode, get rich or die trying, if you feel me. But we do have to have some people out here who are willing to be voices of love, of peace, and empathy. Christians should not be outdoing humanists in empathy. I'm going to say that again. Christians should not be outdoing humanists in empathy. Now, they can outdo atheists because atheists just mean we don't believe in a God, right? But if you attach yourself to the identity of a humanist, then you need to be killing the game in empathy. You need to be killing the game in compassion. You need to be killing the game in understanding. This is one of the reasons I don't comment. I don't respond to comments anymore, because I realize, like, damn, as funny as it is, and y'all know I have a lean towards being funny. I like being funny. As funny as it is, I don't want to model something that could turn into an excuse to dehumanize people. So I just don't comment at all. What's the old adage? If you don't got something nice to say, don't say it at all. And so, yes, I definitely am out here trying to do my best to create an army of secular ministers, of people who will stand up and be peacemakers and be builders and help us understand empathy when it doesn't make sense. And for those of you who are having trouble with empathy, I want you to learn from the Black community at this moment, because in many ways the African American community has had to master empathy. You've watched us. You have watched us walk into courtrooms and forgive those who have shot our babies. You have watched us sign up to fight for a country that would not consider us human. Okay? So if you're going to use the Black community as an example for anything you're doing, I hope there's some empathy attached, because that's how we roll, or at least that's how I roll. I can't speak for the whole Black community. Y'all already know. But as a person who's actually informed on the history, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, there's some understanding there. And so I do believe that as humanists, we need to be beating everybody else in empathy. All right, so power of secular hermeneutics, and I'm done. It dignifies the search for meaning. It allows for humor, irony, and absurdity to sit alongside with grief, longing, and loss. One of the biggest issues with religion is it sets some human emotions as pure and other human emotions as evil. Secular humanism, secular ministry can remind people that you are a spectrum of emotional experiences and all of them are you. And so it's probably not a good practice of determining some of those emotional reactions as evil, because then you are literally dehumanizing aspects of yourself, which is not gonna allow you to safely integrate the wholeness of yourself. I hope that makes sense. Secular human hermeneutics also equips people to retell their own stories, not as failures, but as awakenings. It liberates interpretation from dogma by saying, you know what, dogma, doctrine, and theology, and people who believe in a God aren't the only ones who get to have an opinion on life and meaning. Like, this is our opportunity to stand up. And most importantly, and if you understand the state of this country, United States of America, and if you understand the state of global society, this one is the most important. To me, the reason why secular hermeneutics and secular ministry is so important is because it helps people find their own agency. Instead of outsourcing responsibility to fate, to God, to karma, or the enemy, people find encouragement, edification, and even the education to, hate to say it this way, to pull themselves up, to see their own capacity, to see themselves as an active agent in society, to no longer see the angel and the devil on the left and the right shoulder, but to see themselves as the movers and the makers and the meaning makers in their own lives. That's powerful. To me, it ain't got to be powerful to everybody. So my big point tonight, y'all, is the porn scene from Euro Trip. It isn't just funny. For me, it was prophetic, in a secular sense. It shows how ritual, beliefs, and devotion can be hilariously mismatched with reality when the premise is flawed. But in naming that misalignment and laughing through it, we gain power. Secular hermeneutics is the courage to sit in that moment, not with shame, but with curiosity, and begin again. As I finally shut this down, because I got to go eat. My wife just said food is here, which means she's ordered some food, and I have no clue what it is. But I'm gonna find out when I shut down. But I remember the year I deconverted. Shortly before I did, I was watching a documentary on the Discovery Channel, and the documentary was about mermaids. And some of you may remember this documentary. It was incredibly impressive. And I remember watching the documentary and at certain points getting goosebumps because, number one, I've always loved mermaids. Man, I wanted to be a mermaid as a kid. I wanted to bang Ariel so bad and have little mermaid kids. I wanted to be Tom Hanks and Splash because he got to be with a mermaid. Wanted to be a mermaid, So they did this documentary, and I remember watching it, having goosebumps. It was so incredibly well done, and I was believing every second of it. Like, oh, I remember telling myself, this makes so much sense. Aquatic ape theory. Oh my goodness. Because it just did such an incredible job. And at the end, I was sitting there, goosebumps, chills. And I was like, oh man, this changes everything. And then the credits are playing. And then it says, Dr. Such and such, played by this person. Mermaid number 1, played by this person. And I realized this was not a documentary. This was a mockumentary. This was scripted. None of this was real. But that entire documentary, it felt real to me. Daryl Hannah. That's who it was, Puggles. Oh, my goodness. It felt real to me, you know? That whole moment, I felt like I had stumbled upon some hidden knowledge. Stumbled upon it on cable television, by the way. But I stumbled upon some hidden knowledge. It felt so real. And I immediately bought in, y'all. Immediately. Until I read the credits. And once I read the credits, I had to start looking shit up and found out that, oh, this is not real. And then I realized, Darante, you have a propensity to believe bullshit. You just watch something, and with no other evidence, just with watching people say something in front of a camera claiming that they were this or that, you receive that as truth. That's not a flex, bruh. That's something you need to correct. And that's how I started living my life. And that was 2014 when I saw that. I deconverted shortly afterwards, around October and November. And ever since then, I've been doing my best to develop a secular hermeneutic, a way to interpret the world that has no need for gods, that has no needs for superstition or magic or supernaturalism. If any of those things ever are proven to exist, sure, we'll go there. But until then, I prefer, and again, it's my story. I can't tell nobody else's story. I prefer to use tools that people can understand and that they can relate to. And I get it. There are a lot of people out there who will say, Darante, I don't think you should do that. I don't think secular preaching should be a thing. And what I'd say to those people is that's why you fucking suck. That's why nobody has come to critical thinking because of you. That's why nobody has increased their reasoning because of you. That's why on a large scale, nobody has changed their life because of you, because you are an arrogant, narcissistic prick who just wants to mentally masturbate all day. But as for me, I actually want to improve the world that I live in. So I honestly don't care about the opinions of people who say, well, this sounds like church. Well, this looks like religion. Well, I don't give a fuck. If you think so, go do something different, because that's your right. That's your privilege. What I try to encourage people in the secular community in is stop trying to tell other people what they should or shouldn't be doing. You're actually kind of a jackass when you're doing that, especially if you're not actually doing anything. And so, just for those of you who don't know, Michael Jordan didn't listen to the people on the sidelines. Why? Because he's too busy winning championships, bitch. I'm sorry, Beatrice. Beatrice is the new word. Beatrice is the new word. That's the new word. He's too busy winning championships. Beatrice. Don't that feel better? That just feel better. Unless you're at a Wendy's. That's so funny. Fraggle Rock. Holy shit. That just took me way back. All right, y'all. I got to go. I got to eat. Thank y'all for hanging out with me tonight. I hope this conversation has done something for you. I hope it stirred something in you. It's definitely fun to do. I don't do these often, but I am planning on getting back to the lives real soon. Let me give y'all some music as we roll out. And until next time, keep rising. I don't know if y'all. It's just some things, there's no going back. You know what I'm saying?
jwoodbeats.com.
Yeah. I'm not the one with the issues. I hear you. Now here is your tissue. If I'm moving too fast, I might have to dismiss you. And it's really too bad, cause I really will miss you. But I'm not the one with the issues. I left him at church when I made it official. I murdered the curse with my own benediction. Left God in the dirt, call it death of the fiction. Superstition will be served an eviction. Competition will be left in the ditch. Oh my God, it's too damn hot in this kitchen. The fishes of men are now swimming with fishes. Oops, my bad, I guess I'm moving too big.
vicious. Verses sold out, gotta put them on your wish list. Bless my soul, cause I'm dodging your little hit list. I guess you know, you just lost another witness. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now.